Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting, a podcast where we love to hate the movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, grinning big, it's Kelsey Lane.
Hi.
Hey, Kelsey.
What's up?
Not much. How are you?
Pretty good. How
Wonderful.
are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm traumatized a little bit after watching this movie.
Yeah, it's traumatizing.
It's a big trauma movie. It's Enter the Void.
Yep.
Yeah. You and I, we talked about doing this a long time ago, and I was like, you know what? It's finally time to cash in this Enter the Void check. And we're going in the void.
Yeah, and I still hate it.
You had not watched this movie all the way through. You couldn't do it.
Mm-mm.
What's your beef with it overall? Obviously, it's problematic enough that you can't watch the whole thing.
No.
How did you feel both times you've tried to get through it?
The first time, just the credits in the beginning are terrible. You feel like you're in like a shitty techno nightclub in Tokyo.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like all these lights and terrible graphics that make you feel like you just had a seizure and shit your pants.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into the movie and you pretty much carry that feeling throughout.
Right.
You're like, why? Why is this happening?
It's one of those movies where the credits, their credits are famous. Mm-hmm. I remember when this movie even came out back in 2009. The credit sequence was such an assault.
Yeah.
Such an overload that they reused the same guy who designed the title sequence for the All of the Lights music video, with Kanye, and it's like an iconic credit sequence because it is just like crazy lettering and it's bright, big, flashing lights. The music's really loud and thumping, and then it all quiets down, and then the rest of the movie. I would go as far as to say it doesn't lead up to the craziness of the credit sequence until the very, very, very end, which you didn't even get to.
No, I tried.
You bowed out before then. It's a tough one. It's a 2 hour. It's almost a 3 hour long movie.
Oh, it's so jarring.
Yeah.
The whole thing, and then you get into the actual story of it and the
story.
Oh, story. I mean,
very loose.
Yeah. And it's like the sound quality is terrible. It's like, oh, it's so bad. Hold on. I tried to watch it again.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then the visual quality is like shaky and gunky. And it's like, and even the acting is really bad too.
Yeah. The thing with this movie, and if you hadn't seen it, it's a 2009 English language experimental drama art film, written and directed by Gaspar Noé, starring Nathaniel Brown, Paz de la Huerta, and Cyril Roy. Set in the neon-lit nightclub environments of Tokyo, the story follows Oscar, a young American drug dealer who gets shot by the police but continues to watch subsequent events during an out-of-body experience. The film is shot from a first-person viewpoint, often floats above the city streets, and occasionally features Oscar staring over his own shoulder as he recalls moments from the past. Noé labels the film a psychedelic melodrama.
Ugh.
It's soapy. It's real soap opera level, like, not even really soap opera, like sub-soap opera level acting.
Yeah.
Because I think this movie could work. Like, there's a world, and conceivably, which I could be a fan of this movie. Mm-hmm. But the visuals and the way that you get so stimulated by all of the actual, like, the camera work and the flying around and the crazy shit that's going on camera, it can't jive with how bad the acting is.
Yeah. Oh, it's really bad acting.
And we were just talking about this outside. Like, I think you can do some provocation for the sake of provocation in art. I think there's totally room for that. But there's no payoff.
There's no payoff.
You don't feel like any of the stuff that is happening on screen is really earned.
And I felt absolutely no connection to the characters whatsoever. It's like, even when he died, I didn't even care. He kind of like brought it on himself. Like,
oh yeah,
he goes, I have a gun in here, and I'm like not afraid to use it. And they shoot him, and he dies. And it's like, okay, well,
what did you expect, dude?
Yeah, like what? He's trying to flush his drugs, and it's like, I mean, it's on all in first person. It's like, what? This is supposed to be a story. Like, if I wanted to feel like this first person thing is dumb, because it's like, I've never wanted to know what it feels like to be a straight white man ever, really. And it forces it on you.
She says while she wears an army jacket.
yeah, I know, right? And, I mean, in some ways.
Do you remember
for the privilege?
Do you remember what happened the first time you watched this movie? Like, what was the vibe like? What was the situation in which this movie was brought to your attention?
A friend of mine that I worked with for a film festival, he said, "You got to watch it."
Okay. So you just trusted him.
Yeah. I mean, he's got great taste. And then I watched it and I was like, this is really bad.
It is. No, well, it's so hard to pin down the exact things about this movie because I feel like everybody kind of interprets this movie differently. Mm-hmm. Like it's kind of it's like a kaleidoscope, you know, like you can twist it around and you get all these different colors and stuff. But
literally.
Yeah. But what were you thinking the first time you watched this movie? Like you felt, did you turn it off or did you just fall asleep?
I turned it off the first time. I just wasn't engaged with it.
Mm-hmm. Where did you turn it off at?
I think the first time it was before the car accident happened.
Okay.
That's all I remember. I just remember like it just feels like you're having a seizure. Like it's so jarring. The colors and the sounds. It's like, why is this happening? Like, I feel like Enter the Void was what Dreams May Come if it was terrible.
What Dreams May Come? What Dreams May Come? I've never even heard of this.
What Dreams May Come is a great movie about afterlife. It's starring Robin Williams, and it takes you through him, you know, spoiler alert, passing away, and then what happens in his afterlife.
Okay. So
he is sort of, he sees his own funeral and stuff, and he sees his wife, and but I don't feel like I'm being molested throughout it.
Right.
Like it's a story, you know, and you're watching a story. It's not like this is what it would be like if you died. It's like what?
Yeah. It's really smacking you over the head with meaning.
Yeah.
In Enter the Void. I think what I was thinking the whole time watching this. Have you ever seen The Tree of Life?
No.
Okay. Tree of Life is this movie. Terrence Malick directed it, and it's a movie sort of in the same vein of what I think Enter the Void is trying to philosophically achieve, where it's like a lot of stuff comes up about what happens to you during your life and the way you're raised and the people you hang out with and how all of that kind of influences you and what happens as a result of the environment you put yourself in. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there about this big chunk in the middle that's all like it shows the creation of the earth, and it goes, you know, you see some dinosaurs and there's all this crazy visuals and stuff.
Wow.
But Tree of Life has, at least I felt like, a point and a purpose that it's trying to get across. Enter the Void, I feel like, is devoid of that.
Yeah.
I feel like the way I felt watching Enter the Void, I was just like, you think you're so fucking smart, don't you, Gaspar? With your little French dramas and you're keeping it intentionally base level on the writing, so that way we can apply our own meaning to it. I would kind of rather have just had him explicitly find some good actors who can express these base level things instead of just having really shitty actors who are saying these base level things. Because then at least I'd feel like there was thought and care put into all aspects of the movie. Because that's the thing that made me so upset was watching this. It's clear that he has a big vision for the movie, right? There's all these crazy colors and it's really pretty to look at, but there's no actual substance beyond just the style.
Right.
You don't feel for the characters, even during the car crash, which gets replayed multiple times.
Yes.
You don't really care about any of the characters who are involved. You don't care that the family is left torn apart. You don't care that the brother's just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
To be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, elements of things that could have been brought up and paid off again later on in a better way than like, oh, he saw his parents fucking one time. Maybe that's why he wants to fuck the other dude's mom.
Right.
Maybe, but I guess. But it's also, but it's just too. It's hard for me to even like put this into words and not feel like I'm being all over the place.
Yeah,
it's just it's tough.
Yeah,
it's a tough movie to sit through, and you couldn't even sit. I kind of wish I'd been in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
What was the last thing you remember seeing this time when you tried to watch it?
Well, yeah, I remember that. He definitely. It's just because the timeline isn't exactly linear, but yeah, he dies.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
It's fine.
And then for some inexplicable reason, he decides to watch his sister having sex with a man.
Yep.
And then he enters that man's body, so he like bones his sister for a second.
Right.
And then comes out of it, and it's like that's gross. Like, I didn't need to see that.
Right.
And then so he sees that happen, and then he watches her get the call where she figures out that he's dead.
Yeah.
Right. And then he goes back in time and watches his life over again, and sees his mom's eyes popping out or whatever.
Yep.
And then
sees his mom's titties a whole bunch.
Yeah, sees his mom. He remembers sucking
breastfeeding.
Sucking on the titties, and then sucking on a woman's titties later.
Yep.
Which I felt like was one of the only interesting things about the movie.
How many titties there were? Well. There's a lot. There's a lot in here. He's looking at his sister naked a whole lot. She works at a strip club.
Yeah.
There's a lot of breastfeeding stuff that gets brought up. I even remember. If there's one character I wish we'd found out more about, it was his junkie friend, the artist guy. Mm-hmm. Because some of the lines that he says at the very beginning of the movie before the brother dies and gets murdered in a bathroom. Mm-hmm. There's this one line that sticks out in my mind where he's like, "I love a good cigarette. It makes me remember of sucking on my mother's nipples." Yeah, it's like
the whole
what nicotine
movie.
Breast milk are you having, dude?
Nicotine breast milk. Yeah, but the plot is sort of unclear too. Like his friend sets him up, or
the friend whose mom he was having sex with.
Yes.
Is the one who sells him up the river for the drugs and not frames him because he is a drug dealer, but it's not being a stool pigeon. It's just he rats him out. He's an informant.
Right.
And he tells the cops, hey, this is what this guy's a big drug dealer.
Right.
We got to get him.
Yeah. But then he's sad when he dies. Right.
But also not really. I don't know if you saw this part. So there's a section near the end of the movie where there's a big domino effect. So you see after the part where you see his life flash before his eyes, basically, he comes back into reality and he's seeing everything happen after he dies. So there's like a cremation scene. There's this dream sequence where he like watches his sister dreams that he comes back to life, but she's like, he's nothing like the way he used to be. Something's wrong. And like a cab driver punches him in the face. And then she has sex with Mario, the strip club owner, who's this just like a sleazy Japanese man. I love you name a sleazy Japanese guy Mario. Really just muddling the stereotypes between Italians and Japanese. Yeah. Gaspar, what are you doing, dude? Yeah. And then he goes in. So she finds out that she's pregnant with Mario's baby, and she's like, "Well, I can't do this. I know Mario's bad." So she gets an abortion on camera, and she's very distraught, as I would imagine you would be after having an abortion. Right. And post-abortion, post-brother dying, she's in a real bad state, the sister. Linda, I think is her name. And she has the friend who set him up, comes to her door, knocks on it, and she opens up. She's like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And he's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, you should just go fucking kill yourself. And she says it, I said it right now with more emotion than she does.
Oh my gosh.
She just looks at him and you can't even see her face because the camera's up above her because it's the ghost watching. She goes, you should fucking kill yourself. You should fucking kill yourself. Do us all a favor and fucking kill yourself.
Oh my god.
And with the setup just like that, monotone. And I'm just like, come on. And then the friend is like, well, listen, it was his fault, but it's kind of, I did a bad thing, but it's kind of his fault too. Like he was hanging out with bad people and like, you're a bad person. And I'm like, oh buddy, what is even the point of this scene?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't know why this is the element of drama that you think needed to be added here.
Yeah.
If you're going to have these people acting in your movie who can't carry the emotion here.
Literally can't act.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And then, so the abortion scene happened, that happened, and then, oh boy. So we go, there's a lot of shots during the middle part of the movie where he's watching his life back again, where you see the 3D neon model of Tokyo, right? And they keep showing on the Love Hotel.
Yeah.
So then she calls up the druggy friend, the Alex is his name. Mm-hmm. She calls him up. They go to a Love Hotel to bone down, and they're sad. I miss my brother. I miss my friend.
Oh my god! Why does he watch his sister have sex so many times? It's too much.
He watches his sister have sex a lot in this movie.
Why?
I think he wants to fuck. This is an incest movie.
Yeah.
This is a movie all about incest.
I think he was in love with her too.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning of the movie, I was like, "Oh, this is his girlfriend," and then I figured out it was his sister later.
Mm-hmm. Drugs and incest.
I thought maybe it was because like she didn't know how to be somebody's sister, so it was like a bad casting choice.
Maybe.
And then, but it was strong though, the feelings of incest.
Right. There's a lot of incest in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like lingering shots on the mom's nipples and the mom's boobs.
Yeah.
And everything kind of like flashes back and flashes forward to like people having sex.
Yeah.
The Love Hotel sequence is literally just a scene of him floating around through this hotel watching a bunch of people fuck. And there's power. There's like a smoke that emanates from everybody's genitals.
Oh my god.
Which is the power of the movie, I guess. She watches it. He watches her brother have sex. He watches his sister have sex with the friend. He goes into the friend's head, so he's having sex with her again.
Oh my! What?
And then I'm so sad you fell asleep for this because this is the real capper of the movie. The film, it zooms in. He's real close in on her, and she says, "I want you to come inside me. I want you to come inside me." And then he goes down into her vagina, and you're watching the friend's dick thrust in and out in like. It's right here in front of you. It's like as close as this mic is to my face right now, and it's gigantic. So it's just thrusting in your face. And then cum happens. He comes. And then you follow the cum, and egg fertilizes. And then the movie ends with a birth. And you're watching first person as presumably the brother is being born and reincarnated or something.
Oh, wow.
But...
So he's his sister's baby?
But he's his mom's baby. But it doesn't matter because he just wants to fuck the mom and the sister anyway. So
yeah, it's gross.
Who
what
really
the
cares?
Hell?
It goes off the rails in a way that like it doesn't feel. This movie's all style, no substance. If I were to see this movie on at like a nightclub with no subtitles, I would appreciate it for the visuals. Mm-hmm. I think the visuals are obviously the best part of this movie. And the cinematographer, Benoit Debie, does a lot of really good work. He did the cinematography of one of my favorite movies, Spring Breakers. But even Spring Breakers, like all of the stuff, that's another movie with a lot of drugs and a lot of sex. But... in a lot of bright neon colors, but the way
and
that
a lot
movie,
of terrible James Franco.
Which, I mean, James Franco is like on point in that movie as a terrible person.
I've never seen it.
Spring Breakers is a masterpiece, but it uses all of the elements that I think exist in movies like Enter the Void, and helps you feel something about the world that the movie takes place in and about the characters who are engaging in all of this behavior. Enter the Void just presents it all for you, and it says, all right, feel things.
Yep.
Which it's hard to do when you have people who can't also help. You can't be inside anyone's head and feel what they're feeling just because you literally have the camera being from first person.
Right.
That doesn't equivalent. There's no equivalence to it. I just felt so disappointed walking away from this.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. I wish that I had not seen the whole movie. I wish I could have walked away like you
I
did.
feel very glad that I didn't.
I'm proud of you for falling asleep.
Sorry you had to watch the whole thing.
It's okay. I feel like I've learned something from it. I feel like I've come away from Enter the Void being like, all right, yeah, that was not good.
Yeah, most people came away from that movie.
Yeah.
All of the gratuitous sex scenes.
There's a lot. I mean, the gratuitous. I mean, it's really hard. I was sitting there. It's you know how sometimes you watch a movie and you'll be on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
For like an anticipatory reason, and then sometimes you're just like, huh, this was a choice. That's how I felt watching a dick get thrust into my face.
Yeah. I was on my edge of my seat ready to leave.
Yeah. Ready to leave your apartment.
Yeah.
And walk out.
And walk out of your own apartment.
Yeah. There was like one of my favorite throwaway Mark Maron jokes is where he was talking about there's some movie. I think it was that one about the Getty family and the son who gets kidnapped. You remember that from a couple years ago? Kevin Spacey was supposed to be in it, and then they edited him out after he like molested a kid. They edited him out, but oh god, I can't. All the Money in the World, I think, is what it's called. And I remember seeing Maron on stage one time in the store. Go, you guys watch that movie, All the Money in the World? I got a screener for it. That movie's so bad, I walked out of my house.
I walked out of my house. Yes. I didn't even want to see my television after I watched it.
I remember. Did you? Any of the times you watched this movie, did you try watching it on drugs?
No.
I feel like it's a movie that's designed to be watched on drugs.
Yeah.
Which is hard to say because the first time I ever tried watching it, I was in college, and I had heard of the movie. I was like, "This movie sounds wild. Let's get high and let's watch this movie." It's a fun thing to do in college. It's a fun thing to do with your friends,
for sure.
So we all smoked a bunch of weed and we tried watching this movie. And as soon as we got like into the middle of the first DMT hallucinogen sequence, we were like, nah, we can't handle this. This is just not, there's nothing going on here. We're done. And we tapped out like 15 minutes in.
Right?
If you can't have the patience to sit down and watch a movie on drugs, that is a movie explicitly about drugs and sex and incest.
Yeah.
What good is this movie?
Exactly. It's not even good on drugs. And here's the thing. I have like a deep love for movies that are so bad they're good. Like I will watch a Toxic Avenger movie or a trauma film any time of day just because it's so bad that it's great.
Yeah.
It surpasses terrible.
Right. Because that's the beauty of a B movie. Trauma films, I feel like, are really high quality, like trashy movies made to be that.
Absolutely.
And they don't strive to be anything great. They just fit the vein, and you ride it out.
Yeah.
Enter the Void is trying to be high art with a capital A.
Exactly. Like, I feel like his thought process behind it was like, we're going to take what film is and like turn it on its head. And it's just like, why are you trying so hard?
Yeah.
You could have like made like a good story, because I'm saying the thought behind it, like the premise itself is interesting. And even some of the writing isn't terrible. But it's like, but you tried so hard to make it something great that it was terrible.
There's some stuff that, like, that opening sequence after you see the DMT and he's hanging out with his buddy, that conversation I appreciate because it felt very much like conversations I've had while I've been on drugs. Right. Where it just kind of goes nowhere and you're talking these big heady things. But there's no real point to it. And I'm like, okay, I get that. And there's a lot of sequences in the movie where I was like, okay, I see what you're going for here, but it's just not landing.
Right.
There's something about this movie that I was reading about how much Gaspar Noé cared about making this movie. he spent 15 years trying to piece this thing together.
Oh no.
This was his passion project for a long time. It had originally 163-minute long running time, which is the one I watched. You watched the shortened version.
Oh god.
I mean, you watched like the double shortened version because you got
I didn't
out of
even
there
get all
before the 100-something minutes. But yeah, like listen to this.
Oh no.
Some of the cut material. This is what was cut from the U.S. cut before the original French version. Some of the cut material is essential for the film. Some astrovisions, an orgy scene with Linda and a Japanese girl, a scene where you see Oscar waking up in a morgue and he is alive but he's not, and then camera goes down the plug hole where she's tipping his ashes. And I watched this movie and I was like, you think you're so smart, but this movie doesn't have like... Gaspar Noé is a provocateur. That's something that I know about his movies. I've only seen this and Climax, but... You know, the movie he got on the map was this movie called Irreversible, which is a movie that features a lot of very brutal violence, including like a single shot, 9-minute long take of a rape. And he's a provocateur, right? Like he's doing stuff like that. And I haven't seen Irreversible. And Irreversible, from what I can gather based on people's reviews of it, there's a method to doing stuff like that where it fits within the context of the movie.
Right.
And Climax is is the only movie I'd seen his before that. Climax is a horrifying movie because it's about young kids having a crazy acid trip and bad shit happening because they're all on drugs.
Right.
And I walked away from that movie feeling very uncomfortable and feeling like I had a bad acid trip. And I think that is provocation in a way that makes sense, where it fits, where it works. Enter the Void doesn't have any of this, anything to back up the provocation. You're just zooming in on abortions because you can.
Exactly.
You're just watching your friends and family fuck because you can.
Yeah, it feels like hacky comedy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the comedian that's just like, I'm going to say all of the bad words because I want to.
Yeah. It's open mic. Storytelling.
Yeah, it's and then it's just like, if you're gonna say those words, at least have it be a good bit.
Yeah, I feel like Gaspar Noé worked this out at Fourth Wall in like 5-minute chunks at a time.
Exactly.
And he's like, all right, you ever think about wanting to fuck your sister? I fuck my sister by going inside of my friend's heads while they fuck.
Because I was dead.
I died and I fucked my sister while I was dead. There's a lot of, man.
And you're like, oh God, it's bad because you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
You ever really, really cared about something, like really cared about a bit or a roast battle or something you wrote?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I just care about it so much. And people are like, ew, it's like gross because you care too much.
Yeah. I've been, you and I have both been around roast battle for a long enough time that we've seen the limits that people try and push when they're not skilled enough to push it.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame that, like, I can tell by watching this movie and the style of it that Gaspar Noé is a clearly talented filmmaker who could figure out how to work all of this into something that makes you feel. But it's like watching somebody in the early days of the roast battle when white guys were allowed to say the N-word on stage because they got a pass if it was two white guys battling each other. And somebody just throwing it out there with no purpose to it, just to be like, I'm just saying this word because I know it's going to shock people.
Yeah.
Before you understand how to get the artfulness out of it. And before you understand how to artfully say horrible things.
Yes.
In the way that the show is designed to work.
Right.
It's just...
Yeah.
I was reading some of the reviews of this movie. Have you read any reviews of it?
No.
So first of all, it's a huge financial failure. It returned, according to Wild Bunch, one of the production companies, the film returned 1.25% of its investment. Oh, no. This movie cost it cost 12.4 million euros to make. It made 1.5 million at the box office over the course of its total run. And it was released, and the reception here, it sold 51,000 tickets out of 30 different things. It was reviewed as, here we go, 2 out of 5. Technically stunning, but dreadfully acted, tediously, quote-unquote, profound, and painfully overlong. The Village Voice's Corinna Longworth had several reservations. She thought the characters lacked emotional depth, called the story a lame fusion of stoner lifestyle, sexual fetish, and philosophical inquiry. Jen Chaney of the Washington Post. An attempt to transport moviegoers to a hallucinatory version of the hereafter, unlike anything that's ever witnessed on film. But the problem is it's the most excruciating sit in recent cinematic memory, and the fact that it's intentionally excruciating doesn't make it less excruciating.
True.
It's designed poorly. It's just it fills the time with the most inane like pop philosophy bullshit.
Yeah.
And I was so upset. Just because, like, I really wanted to like this movie.
Yeah.
I wanted to come on here and talk to you and be like, no, you're wrong.
And I love
Here's
it.
why.
Right.
But I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there watching it and I was like, why do I have to care about these people? What am I supposed to, like... Just because you show me a car crash happening 5 times doesn't make me care about it anymore over the course of the time.
The fact that it shows you 5 times.
Yeah.
Really trying to hammer in, like, please feel for them. And you're like, I don't.
Yeah. It's the clear instance of, like, a passion project can sometimes be a really great thing. And sometimes it can be a big fucking disaster.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many flashes of this movie where I was like, oh, this is kind of doing something interesting. And then the camera would keep shooting and it would stay on too long. And then all of a sudden be like, well... You just lost how interesting this movie could be.
Yeah.
Like when in the very beginning of the sequence where he's shooting Linda's abortion, I was like, huh. I'd heard about this scene. I expected it to be like crazy graphic. And I'm like, this is kind of like tastefully done. Like as tasteful as you can do an abortion scene, I guess. I haven't seen a whole lot of them on film.
Right.
And it pans up and then it cuts to like the friend having a really like he's homeless now. He's like running from the cops. I'm like, oh, I feel like some tension here and I feel bad for everybody involved. And it cuts back to her like resting at the doctor's office and I'm like, oh, poor girl. But then it just zooms to the abortion and you just see like an aborted fetus sitting in a bedpan and it just zooms in on that.
Oh.
And it goes all the way in. And then it cuts to something else. And the something else is like, oh, we're going to fuck a brother. Or we're going to fuck a mom. Or we're going to fuck a sister.
I just feel like there were so many things that they could have done to actually make it a good story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just out of reach.
What would you have changed about this movie? What would make this movie compelling enough for you to watch all the way through and not keep tapping out?
Why are you showing me random colors and glimpses and jarring audio that completely takes me out of what is happening? Like, why are you shoving this in every place that you can get where I'm like, oh, now I'm uncomfortable. But I don't like being like spoon-fed how to feel anyways. Like if you just showed it as a story, I think the first person was too much, although it's a bold choice. For me, it took me out of the story because it's like, why? But also, I mean, just the audio was bad too. The audio was like too like real, you know?
Yeah.
And just the visuals weren't even clear. Like the quality of it was bad too. On top of that, the acting, they could have maybe gotten better actors. But also, like, you don't need all of those sex scenes. You know?
There's a lot of sex in this movie.
It's like,
and you didn't
why?
even watch the crazy orgy at the very end where they're zooming out and into the love hotel.
What? For what? For why? For what reason? I mean, because the connection between the brother and the sister, gross. There's like them in like the bathtub. That was a lot. But the relationship between them, I started to feel something with those child actors. You know, like
Child actors are great.
Oh, so good. And it's like, oh man, like they really loved each other and they got torn away and how sad. But it still wasn't enough for me.
Yeah.
But there was glimpses of things that were good. Like if you had to make this movie good, what would you have done differently?
I would have rather seen it happen. I think I would have rather seen a lot of more of the actual family dynamic instead of just feeling like as disconnected as this movie actually winds up treating it. Like I can handle stuff not being told in a linear order. I have no problem with that, but I do have a problem with the fact that we're expected to care about characters that you only keep it at the surface. Like, there's really no depth to what's going on in the lives of these characters to a degree where you can care about it. It's too surface level. I think surface level works for a lot of the movie's visuals. I think that you can keep the bright colors and the crazy shit because it's a drug movie and you're on drugs the whole time.
Right.
But we need a little bit more depth to the actual brother and sister and show more of that dynamic. I think instead of just like glimpses and flashes of like, oh, they're cool. Uh-oh, they're being ripped away. Uh-oh, there's a car accident. Uh-oh, we're going to show the car accident like 10 more times.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't fit. And also I'm fine. I don't need as much incest in this movie. Like, I can handle the sex. I'm like, all right, yeah, I get what you're doing. You're being provocative. Cool. Fine. I get it. But do I need all of the incest stuff? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think it stylistically adds a layer to this movie of anything other than just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
This movie is already what the fuck enough as it is. We don't need to have them have the question in your mind of like, how many of the people in his family does he want to have sex with?
Yeah.
Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it all of them?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Except for the dad, I guess. He doesn't want to fuck his dad.
He barely gives the dad any time.
No, nothing.
He definitely doesn't want to fuck his dad.
No, he doesn't give a shit about his dad.
You know what? I think that's if we're gonna do incest, we got to do the whole thing. He has to want to fuck his dad.
Yeah, that's how you make this movie better.
That's how you make this movie better. You want to enter the dad.
Enter the dad.
There's one last question I'd like to ask you, Kelsey. We talked a little bit about provocation in art, and I think that there's a place for it, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think do you think there's a place for it too?
Yeah.
Is there a movie you'd recommend people watch that pulls off making you feel uncomfortable with the payoff?
Ooh.
Take that drink. Take that drink of water and think. Classic comedian move. It's a tough question.
I'm trying to think of something like really, really traumatizing, but I can't get out. I just saw Honey Boy twice, and I can't get that movie out of my head for some reason because I felt like it was something that it really did a great job of like showing you relationships, and it wasn't like, hey, you should feel something, but if you do feel something, that's great, you know. And I did feel something because of my relationship with my dad. I felt something strongly. But in terms of like provocative things, I'm trying to think of movies where murder or rape happened and it was like, oh, I'm glad that there was a payoff.
I mean, I think Honey Boy can kind of fit that in terms of like, there's a lot of, I haven't seen it, but it's a movie about a relationship between the father and the son. There's a lot of emotional abuse that happens to that, right?
Yes.
So that's traumatizing. That's provocative. I would say that fits the categories.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to see Honey Boy.
I got to see Honey Boy. It's on my list.
It's so good. I saw it twice.
How quickly back to back did you see it?
I think I saw it the second time like maybe a week later, maybe a week and a half, something like that.
I gotta watch that. I haven't seen a movie that made me want to see it twice in theaters in quite some time, so maybe I'll have the same reaction to Honey Boy. Yeah,
you know, it was weird because I didn't prepare that I was going, or I didn't foresee that I was going to have a completely different experience the second time watching the movie. The first time I saw the movie, I totally only felt for the kid. And I identified with him so hard, being coming from the family that I came from. I identified with that kid so hard, and I felt for him. And then the second time I saw the movie, I was like, "Fuck this spoiled piece of shit! This little shit." I mean, and I identified with the dad.
Huh?
It was so weird how I like 360'd it, where I completely understood that the father, you know, he's raising this spoiled child and he's like given up everything to be with this kid, and the kid is completely ungrateful. But the first time I was like, this dad is abusive and he deserves better than this. And it was just so weird how I completely,
I gotta go check it out.
Yeah,
well,
it's
go
good.
watch Honey Boy. Don't watch Enter the Void. You can't find it anywhere, and you don't need to find it.
No. Do you think that there's a movie that's like that handles provocative very well? And
I think. I think Spring Breakers does.
okay,
Spring Breakers. There's a lot of crazy shit that goes on, and I think it pulls it off because it's got a point that it's trying to make.
Yeah.
I think it's got a point it's trying to be made about modern at the time, a lot of like party culture and the way that people react when they're trying to feel like they're a part of a group and like separating from like being a child to being an adult and trying to do it in a really extreme way. I think that's a good way that Spring Breakers does a good job of pulling off that provocation. Enter the Void just didn't do it.
yeah. Oh my God, I have another one, but I can't remember the name of the movie. I think it has like Bird in the title. It was just in theaters. I don't know if you can edit this in or not.
Bird?
I think it was like Blackbird or something. It was about this woman. She gets her child killed in front of her, and she gets raped multiple times.
Oh God.
And then she spends the whole movie trying to find them and kill them. So it's like the payoff of it happening is
Some, like,
so worth it.
Last House on the Left kind of shit, or like Spit on Your Grave kind of shit.
Yeah, and it was like she kept replaying the visuals and the audio of it happening, and it was jarring, but it was for a purpose because that was what was driving the storyline.
Right.
It was what was driving the revenge at the end.
I feel you.
You know? Oh, it was so good, and I think it was Raven. I forget.
We'll look it up. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll toss it in the show notes if we can figure out what it is.
Yeah, it was really good.
Kelsey, thank you.
Thank you so much. And hey, what was the last movie you saw that was really good?
Oh, the last movie I saw that was really good. I saw it's not going to be out for a while. I just saw it at AFI Fest. Baby Teeth. It's really good. And if it's going to come out next year in the US, you should go check it out.
Okay.
The movie that's out right now in theaters that everyone should go see is Parasite. Have you seen Parasite yet?
No.
Oh, man. So great. Go see it. It's amazing.
Yeah, good suggestions.
Favorite movie of the year so far. Where can the listeners find you on the internet and stuff?
I am Kelsey Lane on the grams. Follow me on the grams. I think that's the same for the tweets.
I think so. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
You can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram as well. jlightcomedy.com for show dates. If you're listening to this, you will be able to come see me and my friend Gary Peterson in Louisiana. We're doing some shows in New Orleans and Lafayette, so keep your eyes peeled for that this coming weekend after Thanksgiving. And if you like the podcast, tell a friend, join the Facebook group, subscribe on Patreon. It's all good times, guys. Thanks, Kelsey.
Thank you.
This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.